What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, April 27th. Lightning's out of the bottle this morning. I should have made that the title. Lightning's out of the bottle. You can now retire by investing in Bitcoin. And remember Pontiac?
Everywhere I go, the people really want to know who I is and who I be.
I do. There was something unique about, like, when I was a kid, at least. It was like everybody wanted a Pontiac, right? It was something about, like, in the 90s, at least. There was just this. It felt fast, right? That was kind of before the Honda Civic. It was like the precursor.
There was the Pontiac GTO.
Right. Yeah. And then it was like, wah, wah.
Well, here's the deal. You're probably wondering why the heck we're talking about Pontiac, right? I know a lot of you remember that. Actually, some of you probably don't remember Pontiac, but on this day in history, I just came across this today. On this day in history, April 27, 2009 is when GM announced their plan to end production of the 80-year-old Pontiac brand. So if you remember, let me give you some context. In 2008, it all fell apart, right? The stock market crashed. We just had a really difficult time. OEMs were going out of business. They were about to go bankrupt. GM got a government bailout. Ford did not get a government bailout. They made it, but their stock price was down to like $3. I remember.
Yeah,
it was like $3. If you remember that. So in my business at the time, I thought we were done. All our businesses were dealers, and it was total mayhem in the automotive industry. So a lot of manufacturers started rolling up brands. Pontiac got rolled up. Oldsmobile got rolled up. Chevy didn't get rolled up. Saturn got rolled up. Was that when Hummer
was like, it was like a year or two later. Yeah, but it got rolled up for sure.
How about Hummer? Was that when Hummer kind of bit the dust too?
No, Hummer was like 13 or 14, something like that, I think. Right.
But basically
probably a byproduct of the result of like high gas prices, or quote unquote high gas prices.
No,
we're like,
shoot, they were higher. I remember higher gas prices than this. Not much higher.
Not much higher.
I remember seeing $5 once.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. And just like, I remember thinking it's never going back down. Never, ever, ever, ever. No, it did.
Yep.
It went back down to like $1.20. But either way, so we're hybrid. So either way, this is when GM announced like Pontiac's done. If you think about it, like there were a lot of franchises. They have a Pontiac franchise, and you hear like we're closing it down. Pontiac's date. So it's like this date in history. I thought it'd be good to talk about. Remember that we have been through a lot of turmoil in the auto industry. Like what we're seeing now is just another iteration of it. But we talk about it all the time, man. Like sucker's resilient.
It is, yeah. And I think there's ebbs and flows, right? And I think that EV is kind of one of those, this kind of like moment in time that we're going to look back at and see the winners and losers, see the people that were able to shift and pivot the right way. The ones that made brand stances that felt really strong, that consumers adhered to and locked on to. And then there'll be some that, just don't make it through, that they either try and hang on by their bootstraps and pull themselves up or shift and pivot. So I think it's key to kind of talk about, to look back and to remember that not everyone makes it all the time, but the automotive industry makes it.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in people say never look back, always look forward, because I think we learn a ton by looking back. We learn a ton of perspective. So for some perspective, Pontiac was founded in 1907 in Pontiac, Michigan. That's where the name came from, by a guy named, get this, Edward Murphy. So Eddie Murphy founded Pontiac in 1907, right? But it was a horse-drawn carriage manufacturer. Like, talk about the transition from like ICE vehicles to EVs. Well, it was like horses to, right? That's a pretty big transition too. And in 1909, they became part of General Motors. which was this then a conglomerate being formed. And, their big claim to fame was like their first vehicle was a 6-cylinder engine. And then, like you said, Pontiac started standing for speed and performance. You think of epic Pontiacs like Smokey and the Bandit. How about Kit from Knight Rider? Kit from Knight Rider was like the ultimate Pontiac.
Ultimate, exactly.
And then Pontiac just became like just another badging of like the other GM cars, right? Then they
it was like
they lost their identity.
It's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was
which is why they were like, what do we need them both for?
It was like when Dodge and Chrysler were basically the same thing. Pontiac was the Dodge of of the GM world for sure. So
I mean, it's kind of like Chevy and GMC now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Now that's the new kind of like, just walk down for sure.
Yeah, I guess there's enough of that. So we thought it'd be good to look back because it's always good to look back and get some perspective. And speaking of transitions and perspective,
hello.
Segue
time.
All right, we went.
That was a
today.
softball pitch. That was so easy.
It was.
That was
great. And we didn't. So the Pontiac story was actually the last one we wanted to talk about. We just started talking about it first today. But here's actually what we're going to talk about is like Ford yesterday. They rolled the first Lightning off.
You know what I'm impressed with? Let me just say this. 2 weeks ago, they came out and were like, on the 26th, we're going to do the thing. And they did it. That's a big deal.
We're very impressed.
Nobody predicts things 2 weeks in advance and actually does them. They're like, I got to push it back. Oh, we're moving it up, but they like a 2-week timeline and they nailed it. Great.
That's not just in automotive. I was just having breakfast with a friend and we were talking about how like our expectations overall have just been gone. Like I don't expect things to be in stock. I don't expect things to be on time. Right. I just don't. And so Ford exceeded expectations, rolled the first Lightning off the assembly line. Production began just 7 months ago in September. Think about that. In September, they were like, we're going to start making these things and start outfitting the plant and doing all that stuff. And today they rolled it off. Executive Chairman Bill Ford said, today we celebrate the Model T moment for the 21st century at the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center. The stunning anticipation for F-150 Lightning is a credit to the work of our Ford engineers and designers and the UAW team members who are building these trucks with pride. It's a big moment.
Okay. That celebrating the Model T moment, I don't know if that's a pretty bold statement. Like
it's a little hypey
EVs for a hot minute. That's a little hypey.
It's a little hypey. Well, but Ford hasn't. Yeah. Well, think about the Model T. The Model T was like, we figured out a way to mass manufacture a vehicle.
Yeah. And to be fair,
somebody figured out how to mass manufacture an EV already.
Yeah, if you did it in 7 months, right? You've executed something that most others haven't been able to, in outfitting a plant that was retrofitted to do something different.
There's the real celebration.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that there probably is something to be said there because, especially for legacy OEMs that kind of like just kind of work on and things happen and R&D happens and then they slightly iterate, but that's a massive iteration on a current process. And to do it in such a tight timeline speaks to the validity of OEMs actually being able to play the game that all of these other EV manufacturers are coming in and trying to steal the thunder.
Yeah, for sure. And
so they threw in Lightning. What? Thunder and lightning.
The speechwriter got a little excited. The speechwriter got a little excited.
They did. The speechwriter definitely got.
He was high-fiving, like they were high-fiving. They were having a good time over the Model T moment thing. So they put, I read in the article that we linked. We always link up the articles in the show notes if you don't know. So what they did was they put, I think it was just under $1 billion into the plant, right, to make it able to.
Wow.
And so here's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, they put $1 billion. There's like 945 million into this plant, and out comes this beautiful electric vehicle, right? You have a tangible vehicle, 200,000 pre-orders. Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Jennifer. It's so good to see you all here. We like to give you some love when you show us some love. And so, look at this. The good mornings are rolling in. Bobby Rosa on the West Coast. He's up early. This man.
Everyone.
Follow Bobby on LinkedIn because he does custom pool design, and it's so much fun to watch these things going up. So here's the deal. 945 million on the plant. And out comes this full electric vehicle. 200,000 people are about to buy it. It's going to really change the game. And Twitter cost $44 billion. And that only was 945 million. I just thought about that for a second. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. If we're gonna go to the Twitter thing, I've seen people being, like posts like, "Oh, guess what? I just bought the whole city out, every business in it, $44 billion. Congratulations to me!" Right?
Isn't that amazing?
There is this like scope and scale of attention and whether or not the validity of progress and all that is happening. I think there's a lot more to be had here, especially if dealers are given the capacity to serve the customer base, which is still a question mark because we're seeing a lot of manufacturers come in with these EVs and bring them out with a matching invoice to MSRP. So I think the question mark is still on dealers' minds, even with the Lightning rolling off, the excitement. Hey, we did it. We got there. The question mark is still, what does it look like for the OEM, dealer, and customer to interact in this space?
Yeah, right. There's so many unanswered questions with this. It's easy to sit in a studio and talk about like, look at all these changes. Isn't it exciting? The bottom line is, as an industry, there are a whole lot of things to figure out, right? And I believe, and I know we both believe, that this is going to fundamentally change the business, but it doesn't have to fundamentally kill the best parts of the business, right? This can be the moment. This can be the moment where it's kind of like vision realized, in the sense that we figure out a way to do business that the consumers love, not just tolerate. We can find a way to be valuable as a dealer franchise network that gets to further lean into community, further lean into being a great place to work, further lean into changing the culture and the perception of this industry at large.
Yeah, I saw this morning David Spizak posted kind of like a podcast post on LinkedIn, and speaking of David Spizak, he's going to be at the Tampa Family Reunion here in just a couple weeks. Yeah,
I almost hit the segue. Whenever you say "speaking of," I just reach for the trigger pad.
So he's going to be there, so you can jam with him and chop it up and talk shop with David. But he was leaning into that, especially a lot of this Carvana conversation and OEMs conversation. And his belief and our belief is that the retail automotive industry is predicated on relationships and people and community impact. And I think if the manufacturers are smart, they're going to figure out a way to make that the best part about what their dealerships are doing.
Gosh,
right? Even if it is a more direct to consumer or more like invoice to MSRP, how we do ordering cars, but maybe what that actually does, and I'm just thinking out loud here, maybe what that actually does is start to free up the dealer to think outside the box about how they are engaging with the community. Instead of being so dug into the nuts and bolts of profitability, they actually are freed up to do more. We see this with marketing budgets a lot. It's like when you start to free up resources to go and put it back into the community or put it back into your people, you're freed up from a mentality perspective to do that. And this could be that pivotal moment to like actually get back to the roots of why the franchise dealer system was set up in the beginning.
Gosh, we need to make it that. I mean, the reason the SOTU exists, the reason Automotive State of the Union has traction, is because I think that no one else has really celebrated dealers and focused on it to this level in this way, because the OEMs have all the leverage and all the money and all the stories they need to do it.
Yep.
They really do. I mean, can you imagine if Ford or GM or Toyota like really just put a lot of time and energy and money into focusing on the community impact of their dealers, not just in like dealers, not just in like some like Super Bowl.
Oh my goodness! What if the brand message was the dealer? Well,
but they can't do it.
It would be so smart though, because
it's their competitive advantage. Honestly,
it's their only competitive advantage to Tesla. Like building a better Tesla, better whatever EV out there. Like, yes, you might be able to iterate on that, but at some point, everybody's going to be doing the same thing that they do with the current vehicles, is just like one slightly new feature, one slightly new this, couple more miles, per charge. And so the competitive advantage is the dealer. And think about all the rich stories that all these dealerships have. And if they drew that out, all of a sudden, the biggest thing that they're trying to solve, which is retention, they're actually branding into retention.
I know. You're welcome. You're welcome, OEMs. We're trying to do your work for you. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it.
Let's go.
But here's the thing, too. I think there's probably a big power struggle in like, how can we compete with Tesla by being like Tesla, right? And from a corporate standpoint, there's always this conflicting interest with dealers and OEMs. OEM is like, I want max control of this brand, as they should, right? Like, if you just think of it pragmatically for a second, an OEM is like, I want full control over the product, its delivery method, right? Because I want to own the end consumer. And a dealer, on the other hand, is like, well, I have all this liability, investment, responsibility. I want control over my brand because I can't control what you do. I can control what I do, right? So they should also be like, I want to own the customer loyalty. That's why this industry is one of the most unique from a brand standpoint, one of the unique relationships in modern business.
But everyone leads with product marketing first instead of relationship marketing. Golly.
But everyone says they lead with relationship marketing.
Never.
I think everyone
rarely,
thinks they
rarely.
I think they think they do.
I think you're right too.
I really think they do.
That's
right? Because you have a marketing department, you have a CMO, you have a community outreach team. But like, look at all the stuff we're doing here, right? And they're going to show that to the board, and the board's going to feel good, and the board's going to get back to it. Like, all right, how are we going to make a lot of money on doing this, right?
Yeah.
But I think that most people feel that they are, right?
So and that's what's scary, because then if you see no reason for change, then you don't change.
Well, that's why we exist.
We got a lot to think about here on a Wednesday.
That's
people, lots to think about.
We're getting deep, but that's why we have a job, and that's why we have this community of amazing dealers and industry partners that believe what we're saying and are taking tangible action to make it reality. So I hope that we never think we're doing it. I hope we're always doing it. And I guess history and time and the community will be able to judge that. Last story today. If you ever had a retirement account or have a retirement account, you are now, if you have Fidelity, which is the largest retirement plan provider in the US, you can now invest in Bitcoin.
It's crazy.
And so you can now allocate up to 20% of your portfolio to Bitcoin. Other cryptos will probably follow, but for now, it's Bitcoin. And the employer still has to approve the plan. But basically, under the plan, Fidelity would let savers get as much as 20% of their nest eggs in Bitcoin, though the threshold could be lower by plan sponsors. Their major competitor of Fidelity, Vanguard, said it has no plans to offer a cryptocurrency option in its 401k plans. According to a spokeswoman on the company's site, it says, since cryptocurrencies are highly speculative in their current state, Vanguard believes in their long-term investment case is weak. There go every Gen Zer and millennial out of those retirement plans. But like, can we get a Fidelity plan?
Yeah, over here to Fidelity, right? Yeah, I do think, I mean, there's still so much volatility in that, and it is full on, it is like the new blue chip, right? It is, it's a high yield, high risk participatory plan, but I think that the younger participants are willing to withstand the high risk short term,
and they can
because they can, and the reward is probably there. So
yeah, not a great. Yeah, you don't have to choose it. Not a great selection if you're probably within 5 or 10 years of retirement.
Not
in
at
an
all.
article in an article we had in our email, we always have a little telling it like it is. If you're not on the email list, please do it. asotu.com, asotu.com. We have a lot of fun with it every day, try to keep you informed in 5 minutes. And after every article, we give a little commentary. And today's commentary on this article is this. Overheard, right? This is something we overheard. If I retire right now, I can live on my savings for 30 years. I mean, 10 years. I mean, 41 years. I mean, 3 years from now, right? Because crypto is so volatile. Like that commercial where the kid's like, I'm a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire.
The H&R Block commercial is so good.
I'm not a millionaire, right? So we're not telling you what to invest. This is not investment advice. Obviously, if you're taking investment advice from us, then you just need to rethink your life in a lot more ways than just that.
Yes.
Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. We hope we broadened your horizons a little more. Share something that you learned. And remember, get your tickets to our event in Tampa on May 9th, asotu.com. We will see you there, and we'll see you tomorrow too.